Hey everyone, this is Logan Hertz with Hazeltine LLC. Today we are continuing our interview series. We're joined by someone a little off the beaten path, Jake Bass, who is not in the business, but who has developed a very unique product that could potentially be the next evolution for the business. And we're excited to speak with him today to learn a little bit more about his company, his product, and the entrepreneurial progress that he's making. So, Jake, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Excellent.
Uh,
So, Jake, before we get to your unique product, let's first introduce you. What's your background and why are you kind of doing what you're doing?
Absolutely. So I kind of developed this idea and arrived at this product through my own experience selling life insurance. I was selling policies, predominantly permanent policies, different kinds. And I actually had a client that wanted to access some of the cash value in theirs. And upon doing it, going through the entire process of getting the assignment done and getting documents notarized, I realized that there had to be a better way, an easier way for people to access this money that's rightfully theirs, and that's kind of why I started entertaining ideas of digitizing and simplifying the process of using the funds that are held in your permanent insurance policy or cash value life insurance, and that's kind of where I arrived on this credit card product, and we're very excited to be bringing it to market this year.
Excellent. So, your product is the V card, VIE, the V card. And the
Yeah.
way I view it is you're kind of operationalizing the infinite banking concept where people can now use this card to spend directly from their policy. So you have cash value in your life insurance policy. You can utilize it by way of a policy loan, which is perfectly fine. And it's a great feature. There are no repayment terms on that policy loan. Um, but you are kind of taking that a step further. There are today cash value lines of credit. So you mentioned getting a collateral assignment. You would not need to do any of the things you suggested to take out a policy loan. A policy loan is a contractually guaranteed right. There's no credit check, no nothing. They can't say no. But if you wanted to take out, let's say, a cash value line of credit, now you're making a collateral assignment of your policy to someone else, and they're going to give you a line of credit against your policy, similar to a home equity line of credit, except your policy is the collateral. But what you are doing is basically, and you can explain this more, so correct me if I'm wrong, giving people a credit card where they can spend their cash value directly via that credit card. You want to explain that a little further? Did I get that right?
Yeah. I mean, essentially, that is what we're doing. There's some nuances to it, obviously, that we had to get figured out, but it would be a way for people to directly tap into what they have, what the cash value is of their life insurance at that time. They can, get our card. It would be a quick, easy, simplified application process, and then on the other side of that, they would be able to, within that same day, start spending that available cash value. So really, really interesting product, and we really view it as a way that's going to help life insurance and this kind of, be it infinite banking or just be it, people getting insured in general and utilizing life insurance in general. I mean, we feel like it's a way to kind of bring it into the 21st century, bring it full circle and make it easier for people to do this and easier for people to take advantage of these plans that you and I both know are very beneficial in the long run. There's a lot of conflicting, be it, whomever. There's a lot of conflicting teachings out there telling people to actually avoid life insurance, and those really aren't backed by any solid fiduciary evidence or advice. You really look at life insurance and the benefits it can provide to a person long term if used correctly, and it's, the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages, and we're trying to just make it more accessible for more people to utilize this life insurance as a way to grow their wealth.
Yeah, yeah. So we could have a whole another episode on all the
Yeah.
misinformation that's out there for sure. Well, but for the purposes of this episode, I think we're kind of assuming people at least have some idea why you might want to do this, right? Because this is taking it to the next step. So what kind of obstacles are you running into? Because I'm sure you're running into obstacles as you're trying to operationalize this and implement, and how are you navigating those obstacles?
Right, right. Well, so the one that's top of mind, and probably that everybody would think that would run into is the regulatory hurdles when it comes to the handling of personal information and data. You know, these insurance carriers, they're all built on legacy systems that are very entrenched in avoiding risks, especially when it comes to exposing their account holders' data and sharing it or utilizing it in any other way other than how they've utilized it for the last some odd 100 years. So overcoming all that initial kind of pushback was the biggest hurdle, and it's something we've been dealing with for the entire year. However, getting in front of some of these regulators, state regulators, even state insurance commissioners, and really getting them to kind of get behind us a little bit has helped us kind of navigate these paths that turn and twist and are a little bit difficult to get down because when we get them when we get the insurance commissioner of say Nebraska behind us, well, it's a lot easier than to continue engaging with carriers in that area because they understand that there's not going to be any pushback on their end, right, from a regulatory standpoint. So that's hurdle number one, just regulation, getting through regulation. Hurdle number two, though, would probably be just getting people to really understand how it works. And I mean, I'm sure there can be, you can kind of share that notion, whenever you're trying to get people to that next level as far as the teachings of infinite banking and how it works, and really just trying to grow that community and get as many people taking advantage as this as possible. Well, same thing for us. I mean, we've just had a hard time really kind of getting I guess getting the idea understood from a widespread standpoint. But other than those two things, it's just been a ride up to this point that we've really embraced the entire time, and excited to continue in that path onward and upward as we kind of grow this thing.
Yeah, and the thing I like about it is similar to infinite banking in that this is not new. Like there's nothing new
Right,
about this. It's very traditional. It's just kind of operationalizing something that's already there. There is already a mechanism for you to utilize the cash value that's in your policy because the cash value contractually is yours. So I'm glad you
yeah,
brought that up more than once. This is your money contractually. You have contractual rights over the cash value in your policy. By the way, money in your bank account is not yours. It belongs to
right,
the bank. Okay. This money is yours, right? So it's just a matter of
right,
having a more convenient option for utilizing it because basically today you can take out a policy loan, which is what we typically recommend. You borrow against your policy with no repayment terms. Meanwhile, the policy keeps growing. You could also surrender cash, which is just like a withdrawal, right? Or you can take your policy to a third party lender, collateralize it, and get a line of credit against it, right? And this is kind of just a natural evolution of taking that one step further and saying,
right,
let's give you a credit card where you can now spend, it operates more like a debit card where basically you have cash value in the policy and you're spending it directly, right? Now, can you explain a little bit more operationally how would that work? Is there like a policy loan outstanding that's equal to the amount that people have spent on their credit card and that grows as they spend it? And then if they pay that back, that policy loan is reduced? How does that work?
yeah. So it's a running loan that basically is tied directly where the limit is tied directly to their policy's cash value, and as it continues to grow, their limit will continue to grow, and so therefore their usage will be able to utilize more. Now there will be a small interest fee attached to anything that's carried year to year, but if they pay it off, I mean, they're month to month, say their income is at a point where they can actually pay that credit line all the way down, then I mean, it would be interest free. But there is going to be a slight interest only payment that will be attached to that running balance as it kind of matures. However, yeah, so that's really where the credit part comes in. It's like a running loan that's attached where the value where the loan cannot exceed a certain threshold related to their cash value that's attached to their life insurance policy, and as as one grows, the other grows. So it kind of like I guess that's the best way to explain it. I hope that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it
Um,
does. It does. So it is a credit card, but it operates kind of like a debit card in that they're not giving you money you don't have, right? It's directly tied to your cash value.
exactly. Yeah,
And
it's all collateralized with an asset, and
right.
that's another big thing we want to highlight here is that you know the rate of unsecured lending, especially when it comes to credit cards, has almost given credit cards a bad name. And but the key word is that we're a secured credit card,
Mhm.
which is pretty much like you kind of mentioned the debit card. It's secured by something that's an asset of yours that you own, and it's not this unsecured loan that's going to cost you 20 to 30% to repay, because that's what keeps people in debt is these interest rates.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing about a credit card is that if you look at American Express, for example, some people might assume, well, they make their money, by charging interest. Well, that's not exactly true. They do make some money if you don't pay your credit card on time and they
Right.
charge you interest, but most of their money comes from interchange fees. Which
Yes.
means that
Yes.
if you're one of those people who does the right thing and pays your credit card balance in full every month, so you never pay any interest to American Express, they're still making money because they charge 3% or whatever it is to the merchants when you
Yeah.
make purchases, right? So I think
Right.
there's a similar thing here. That's why I like the idea of using a credit card, because it allows the consumer to use it where the consumer may not be directly bearing the cost. It's those merchants who sign up for American Express or Visa or MasterCard or whoever the provider is. They're the ones who are actually paying for the convenience of the credit card. The consumer is, they're still indirectly paying for it, but they're not directly paying an interest
It-
cost.
and that's interesting that you bring that up, because that was really kind of one of the things and opportunities that I saw whenever we started this business. Because I'll take that one step further. So a lot of times, because these card companies make so much on the interchange, that's obviously how you're able to develop these rewards programs. And what other policy loan program right now, or policy cash value program right now, is out there rewarding people, not just allowing it, but rewarding people using this money that's in their cash value. So like, being able to introduce perks, rewards, and incentives and things like that to kind of, really not only help the people who have been using this practice for a long time, but broaden the spectrum a little bit, and kind of entice other people to really get involved in this infinite banking sphere. I really think that this could be a revolutionary product in just growing the outreach, kind of through these incentives and perks. It's really, I don't know, it's an exciting thing to think about. I'm glad you brought that up.
Absolutely. That was actually something I was going to ask because, I think responsible people out there use rewards earning credit cards for all their purchases. So they pay them off every month and now they get that extra 1 or 2% cash back. My assumption is maybe in some future iteration of this card, there could be rewards, there could be perks associated with it, right? Where you're actually getting an additional benefit by using this credit card. So there's a great potential synergy there, right?
Right. Oh, for sure. And we're not quite sure what those rewards are going to look like right now. But we're always open to suggestions. But there will definitely be some kind of incentive to use this card for purchases, other than the fact that it's going to be a low interest bearing Mastercard that can be spent anywhere.
Yeah. So now let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room as far as infinite banking is concerned. So
Okay.
an infinite banking purist is going to say, look, I do this so I don't have to deal with banks or financial institutions. I don't want a credit card. I don't want to deal with Visa, MasterCard, American Express. I don't want to deal with JP Morgan Chase or Wells Fargo, right? That's why I
Right.
use a policy loan. And I only deal with the banks as much as I have to. So yeah, I'll have to, if when I'm going to spend that money, I'll need a bank. Sure, I'll need checking and savings accounts for just to survive, to live, right? But I don't
Right.
want to deal, I don't want to introduce another financial third party into the equation. I want to get away from the banks,
Yeah.
away from credit cards, right? How would you respond to that kind of infinite banking purist type objection?
Yeah, I mean, and that's completely fair. I would welcome it, and I think I would use it as an opportunity to tell them that we are actually um, trying to do the same thing. we don't want people having to deposit their money in a Wells Fargo or a JP Morgan. And the long-term vision for us isn't just to be a credit card. It's to be the only depository financial institution where you that is linked directly to your cash value life insurance. So where you don't ever even have to worry about having a bank account with a bank at all. Your money would literally be go from your paycheck deposited straight into an account with us. And yes, we would be the closest thing that would be a typical bank once we're a chartered entity. However, we would not be making loans. We would be a bank in the sense that it's a real bank. Your money comes in. The only place it goes is to your life insurance policy if directed to. Or it would go onto your card product that you're already using. That's the long-term vision and goal we see with this, and that's the level of impact we see us having on this not just the infinite banking side of it, but really the entire financial industry as a whole. People shouldn't have to put their money into an account that with an institution that's lending. I mean, and right now that is the only way you can have an account where you're able to spend it real time. I mean, checking accounts, depositories, insurance carriers can't have them. We all know that.
Mhm.
And so like we want to be the closest thing to an insurance company's depository as possible, and that's what we aim to be. So I would say I would welcome that purist and feedback and hope that they could kind of see what we're trying to do here is more than just a credit card. It's more about um, supporting people and putting their money in a place where it's rightfully theirs and accessible to them at all times. And I think we could see eye to eye on that.
Yeah, and I would say too, look, no one, I would never suggest getting rid of the policy loan feature. Like this solution
Right.
needs to be for everybody. If you want to use a policy loan, great, go ahead and do that. This is the beauty of infinite banking is you now have options. No one's telling you
Yes.
you have to adopt this solution. So if you're more of a purist and you want to keep using the policy loan, great, you keep using it. There's nothing wrong with. I love the policy loan feature. It's a phenomenal feature. So I would never suggest that this is going to replace that. No. I think it adds a convenience factor and potentially some extra benefits. And to your point, the extension of it even further would be you direct deposit your money into your whole life policy, so to speak, even though you couldn't directly do that, and then spend money directly from it so you can circumvent the banking system altogether, which brings up a couple of things that you brought up. So first of all, I'm fond of the old Chinese proverb. The beginning of wisdom is to call things by their proper names. And one of the biggest problems we have is modern banks are not really banks, right?
Right.
They
Right.
call it a deposit when you put your money into a Wells Fargo bank account. You have not made a deposit. You have made a loan, an
Yeah.
unsecured interest-free loan to Wells Fargo. They take what you think is your money, but is now their money, and they lend it out to somebody else,
Yeah.
right? So to your point, you would be a real bank. So when you direct deposit your money into this depository that you will provide, the money is actually there and it's actually yours. It's actually earmarked for you. So you are operating like a real bank where you actually are making a deposit. You're not
Right.
taking money and loaning it out. And you can't pyramid $100 on every $10 that gets deposited in there. You can't print money out of thin air, right? You're not doing those
Right.
things. You're not the
Exactly.
legalized counterfeiting enterprises that the modern banks are, right? So there would need to be sort of a separation of function. We don't want the insurance companies to try and be banks or lending institutions. No, we don't want that. We
Right.
want Penn Mutual and Mass Mutual and all these other great companies to keep doing what they do, which is providing this bedrock asset of whole life insurance. We don't want
Yes.
them to get away from that. So that's why we have a separate entity, this depository, that will be the intermediary, but they will operate like a real bank, right?
Yes, a proper bank. Yeah, because all of our money, and that's kind of like the old chicken before the egg thing, right? I mean, banks do what they do because that's the way it's always been, and that's how they make money, and that's the only way they know how. We are reverse engineering the idea of building a bank by building a credit card program, using the credit card program to give us the revenue model, and honestly the proof and traction because we're so new. Give us the revenue model to then build this banking platform that will allow people to actually deposit their money somewhere that's not a lender. We will not be a lender. Even the money that's deposited will not even be used to fund lines of credit that are secured with life insurance cash values anyway. That would be supplied by an entirely different source. So it's just all about honesty and transparency when people deposit their money. We want people to know that they're depositing their money into something that is going to be theirs. And if they were to show up, or if they were to call us tomorrow and say, "Hey, I want to take all this money out of my account," and everybody who had an account with us did that, we would be able to facilitate that cash and not have to call it a bank run. And then what happens after that. You think about it, even money that's deposited in banks, what is that money? It's not, yeah, it's insured. I mean, it's insured with insurance. So I mean, that just kind of brings the insurance thing full circle in the sense that, like, um, yeah, we want insurance companies to keep being them, Penn Mutual to keep doing what they do, and they're bound by regulation to do so anyway. But yeah, we would be the only depository directly connected to these carriers, allowing people to kind of streamline the use of a whole life, index universal life, or any of the kind of permanent life insurance policy, streamline it as a real-time checking account as well. It'd be basically be an all-in-one. And I think that's the best thing for a consumer to have, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a sound banking system. Like I say, we've gotten so used to unsound banking, we don't realize how good things can be when we
Yeah,
sound banking. And the beautiful thing is, we don't have to wait for the financial institutions and the government and the powers that be to decide to go back to sound banking, because they're never going to. They
oh
profit
no.
and benefit way too much from the current system. But there already is a solution right at hand, a very traditional sound solution that's been there for over 150 years. This bedrock vehicle of cash value life insurance. So, how I know this is probably a long-term proposition.
Yeah.
What's your timeline for how this gets rolled out, how this gets implemented?
Absolutely. That's a fair question. And look, anybody who's kind of kept up with the news and really paid to, or who keeps up with just startups in general and fundraising and everything like that, will know that it's been a really tough go. However, we've been able to stay true to the course, and we have interested investors, and we also have, just got a lot of work done bootstrapping it ourselves. And actually, next week, we're actually going to allow agents, life insurance agents, to come on board onto a portal that we've built, and really start kind of generating interest amongst the people who they sold insurance to, or even themselves, because most of these agents have a policy themselves. Um, you know, Start generating that interest, start really getting some customer feedback on it, see if there's going to be a legitimate take up on it. And at that time, that would give us, that kind of green light, that we get, or not. Will tell us, what the next steps are. But should we get the green light, like we think we're going to, from the customers, from the consumer base, we're looking at a 3-month implementation process and having the card out in the marketplace this fall, late summer to fall. Now, from there, I would like to point out that this depository thing that I kind of went off the rails about, that would take a lot more time. When you're talking about becoming a chartered entity, you're talking about a long application process that takes 2 to 3 years, amongst a few other prerequisites that involve having a certain capitalization, and other nuances that go beyond, really, I think, that go beyond any kind of regulatory concern at all. It's almost like a system that's set in place to kind of prevent people from just starting banks. So we get it. So that would be more like a 5-year process, but it all starts with just generating some interest and building this credit card program out, getting people excited about infinite banking, because like you said, this is something that's been around for 150 years. And yet there's so many people that have no idea. There's people with whole life policies that don't even know you can take out a policy loan. They don't even know they just let it lapse and let $200 million a year go back to the insurance carrier. I know we're trying to help insurance carriers too, but really, when it comes down to it, we're trying to help people understand how to best use what they already have in place and excite the next generation about what could be if they utilize permanent cash value life insurance the way we kind of see it. And so that's really what we're trying to do, generate that interest. And if we do that, we'll have a card out in the market this year. And I think, and all signs are pointing to that happening. So that's really what the timeline would look like.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we will definitely look forward to that. We'll keep appraised of the situation. Is there anything you'd like to leave our audience with just in closing?
Yeah, I would like to let everyone know that if you're interested in following along or just seeing how we're doing, our website is www.vcar.io. You can visit it. You can fill out a little quick form there to stay updated with everything that we have going on. And then, obviously, appreciate you guys listening so much. Thank you, Logan, for carving out some time and hanging out. And I look forward to helping and serving the infinite banking community and everyone else in the general financial sector in the future. And I can't wait to get this off the ground. So thank you guys for listening and really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time, Jake. We really appreciate it.